Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are going to review the first 88 films released that I own. And this is considered one of the most controversial of the Naziploitation genre. And that is Cesare Canavari's The Gestapo's Last Orgy. First of all, this is the first 88 films release in America because this film is still banned in the UK. They just resubmitted a re-evaluation to take it off the banned films list in Britain because this is what the company is focused in. And so they did it again in January of this year. It is Thanksgiving actually today. And they denied it. It's still banned. So they were like, you know what? We have the rights to it in America. Let's branch out to America. So this is how I own it because I don't have a Region B player. So initial reactions. I thought it was tame. Let me get my notes up here. The movie is very tame, in my opinion, because I'll just describe what the movie is about. We open with a testimony, an audio, interview testimony that's playing while an older man is driving through the countryside in Italy, I guess. But he meets with a young woman named Lisa Cohen, who we find out her name later, and ends up that they both had a relationship. While the older man, he was an officer in the SS, and he was in charge of a brothel camp at one of the concentration camps. And the woman was one of the Jews who were captured during this time. And she became a sex slave to this officer. And as the film goes about, we go back and forth between present time and the 70s when this movie was made. 77 is a specific year. And we go back and forth between 1943 and 44 to present day, of when the movie was made at least. And we get a lot of pretty disgusting scenes in the beginning when we first get introduced to the concentration camp. We get our first, orgy. It's the only orgy in the film. Is when our officer is telling a bunch of soldiers who are from the, battlefront. They come back to kind of take a break. And another group goes. And he's telling them that the camp that they are now stationed at is actually a brothel camp. And so he kind of tells them, hey, these are Jewish people. They're not even people. Do what you want. Conquer them. Show them that the Germans are the most powerful race or whatever. Very typical Nazi rhetoric and all that, which I do not agree with at all. I despise the Nazis and any fascist leanings at all. I think we'll go back to that point later. But there's another disgusting scene. There's really only two scenes that are disgusting in this movie. And this is why I thought it was tame, because I've seen other Naziploitation films, and a lot of them are very disgusting, and they really go deep in terms of the disgusting nature that is Nazis and fascism and all that. But there's a scene where they're having dinner. They have all the senior officers there. They have a woman officer there who is in charge of the Dobermans in the camp. And they make it a point that whenever there's a woman having her period or menstruating, that woman sends them to the Dobermans to eat them because, according to her, Dobermans are especially in favor of period blood. It's really nauseating to think about. But that woman, she's like the very tropey of the genre, like the dominant female of the camp. She carries around a whip, and she whips men who she's trying to seduce and kind of take control over. She's there. The senior officer that I was talking about, she's there, or he is there, and there's a doctor there who is, I guess, visiting, or a university professor is actually who I'm thinking of. He visits the camp, and he has this radical idea to run farms after World War II that are filled with Jews, and he would use them to farm. And he says that for every 500 Jews, that he would use 10 SS officers to keep them under control. And he said that there'd be another part of the farm where they would fatten up Jewish people and turn them into delicious steaks, as he calls them. And then they proceed to wheel out a dead Jewish woman, and they pour cognac all over her, which is like a type of wine, I guess, or champagne. And they pour it all over her, light it on fire, and then eat her. And they end up having sex with the sex slaves, and one of the SS officers is like groping the burnt corpse of this woman who they tested the meat of, and they all were enthusiastic with how great Jewish people taste. That was probably the most disgusting of the scenes. That was the one that really disturbed me throughout the watch. And aside from those two scenes that I mentioned, I lump the menstruating woman getting eaten by Dobermans into the dinner scene, because it's both consumption based, and the kind of instructing of the soldiers. Those two scenes were probably the most disgusting, but everything after that was very tame. I'm sure when it came out back then, it was very, very messed up. But one final scene that I think was probably the most effective in what they were trying to do, in terms of trying to like be sexy and erotic. So our main woman, Lisa, she is like having fun with the senior officer that she's kind of enslaved to, and shut up, and she has a gun pointed at her. And throughout the movie, there are multiple instances where he's trying to intimidate her by pointing a gun like at her head or at her heart. And this time he's like having it right at her mouth and gonna blow her away basically. And then she gives it oral sex. And that was probably the most erotic scene in the movie. I mean, she really does it. I mean, there's really close shots of that entire scene. And I was kind of shocked at how that was probably the only sexy scene that was effective, because all the other scenes are just like really awkward. You know, the actors and actresses don't want to be there. And then this low budget Italian movie that nobody is going to watch, and it ended up being the most controversial movie. And I don't agree. I think Salo right here, that one is the most controversial. One day I will review it. I am revisiting it. I just got to watch the movie again, and I don't feel like it. So eventually I will review it. I've gone through all the supplements, so this movie's okay. That's kind of my final reaction to this movie. It was just okay. I think if I saw it back in 1977 or 78, I would be shocked. And I now want to discuss the actual packaging. I love this cover. It looks so awesome. I love the spines. I like that side more because it's red. But when you slide it out, you have this amazing artwork here of Lisa tied up. And then I do not have the original artwork showing. I will just show that briefly because it's not anything exciting in my opinion compared to the actual one. So, nude woman tied up, being whipped by an SS officer. I think the cover is a lot more interesting than the actual movie. But it does come with a big poster for the entire movie, which is that same poster that I just showed. I'm not going to unfold this. I'm really awful at refolding it back in. But it also comes with one essay. And I'm trying to get it out of the case without folding the pages. Here's what it looks like. I can't show the back because it's a fully nude woman with everything showing. So, but we get a pretty really interesting essay. I think the essay was my favorite part of this package. I didn't watch any special features. It was just interviews with like random people in the cast that was still alive. And I don't really want to hear what they have to say about the movie. I want to hear the director. And that's it. But this essay is just phenomenal. It talks about the history of the genre from the 50s. We're talking about, or I guess early 60s. We're talking about Fellini films, talking about the super erotic films of the 60s, talking about Pier Paolo Pasolini's films, the trilogy of Live, Canterbury Tales, Arabian Nights, and whatever the third one is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Haven't seen them. But talks about Caligula, which is a very famous movie that the director insists it's not a porno, but everyone knows it's a porno. But they also talk about the genre of the Naziploitation genre. And this whole essay is very much worth the price of admission. Because the movie itself is interesting. But when you contrast it with the other movies of this time, they call this the most epic Naziploitation movie. I don't agree with it, but they go throughout the essay talking about the history of that, talking about why it's banned, which I was kind of like, and it's really funny because the author for this essay, it's a new essay, I believe, and the entire essay is just dripping with sarcasm the entire time. Anytime he mentions this movie and about how it's banned, he's like, yeah, if we saw this, the fall of Western civilization would happen. And it's just like all these throwaway lines throughout the entirety of the essay. It's absolutely wonderful. But, yeah, I think it's worth it. I got it for $20. It wasn't even on sale. So, this is the first U.S. Release by 88 Films. I think it's a great introduction to the label, but I would much rather, I don't know. This movie's just okay on its own, but I think the release is just phenomenal. The essay is just amazing. There are 2 commentary tracks by Italian film experts that are in this, and I really like the slipcover. Again, it's very well made. It's very slick. It doesn't even feel like cardboard. It just looks amazing. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Let me know if you guys have seen this, if you're interested in watching this. I enjoyed it. It was fine, but I hope you guys enjoy this release if you get it. Definitely read the essay. I've always known of the genre, not well, but I know the titles, and I think Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, is my favorite of the genre. I just love that movie. But this one I think was very tame. But I'm repeating myself at this point. Thank you all